Hey, Don here. I'm sitting out in my shop. Listen to Dr. Ruckman's UFOs and the Global Conspiracy. And every time you listen to Doc's stuff, you get something that either you forgot or maybe you just didn't pick up on the last time. Or sometimes it's just as history goes by and you're living through history, things develop to where when he said things back then, it is now more relative or more relevant today than it was back then. And so it's like, bing. So anyways, I was listening to it, and he emphasized Daniel 8:25, and I was out on the garbage route listening to the UFOs and global conspiracy, and again, I was making some notes as I'm going through the route as things were kind of hitting me. Daniel 8:25 says, and through his policy, now this is talking about the Antichrist, through his policy, that word policy, so obviously he's going to be a politician, for one. Also he shall cause craft, C-R-A-F-T, to prosper in his hand. This Antichrist, whoever he winds up being, he's a politician for one, but he also causes craft to prosper in his hand. So, this isn't just something, pardon me, this isn't just something that he's allowing to take place or causing an economic stimulus in the direction of craft being able to prosper. It says causing craft to prosper in his hand. So he has something to do with it, some direct connection. And he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. And we saw that word craft there. Every word in your King James Bible is important. Now, if you have an NIV, New American Standard, New King James, or Greek text, Hebrew text, whatever, every word is not important. And you could be getting anything, and the words may not have special inspiration behind them, and there could be no cross-references, that sort of thing. But I pay very close attention to every single word in my King James Bible because I know it's been placed there by inspiration. And that word craft, I'm like, okay. And Dr. Ruckman noticed that, and I looked up the words spacecraft, and it came up as one word, spacecraft. A spacecraft is a vehicle or machine designed to fly in outer space. Possible connection? Well, this is kind of like the Delta rockets or the Saturn rockets or the Falcon Heavy rockets. All these rockets that have been launched up into space since the 1960s. All rockets, if you've noticed, that are designed to go into space look sort of like a single horn. Wouldn't you say? They're kind of like a single horn if you really examine them. Kind of pointed at the end, long cylindrical, however you say it, a cylindrical body. It's like a single horn. I'm noticing we're in Daniel 9 already. It was talking about he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. And if I look back in the same chapter, where I quoted 8:25, we're in the same chapter, and I quote 8:9. And out of one of them, talking about this Antichrist again, and out of one of them came forth a little horn. A little horn. That horn, kind of like a unicorn's horn, or a he-goat's singular horn, that horn between that goat's eyes. Here it's called a little horn, a singular horn, which waxed exceeding great towards the south and towards the east and towards the pleasant land. So it's kind of interesting that all these rockets kind of look like a horn, a single horn. And the Antichrist is called a little horn. Let's see. And then how about verse 10 here? Daniel 8:10, within our context, within our chapter. And it waxed great, even to the hosts of heaven. Now look at this connection. Even to the hosts of heaven, and it cast down some of the host of the stars to the ground and stomped upon them. So we're not completely out in left field here. Here's a reference to something that's out in outer space. Now, of course, these are principalities and powers and wicked rulers of the darkness of this world, but they're up in that second heaven. So he's got some connection to things going on up in that second heaven. He's called a little horn. Craft is made to prosper at his hand. Let's look at Isaiah 24:21. It's just some stuff to get you thinking. Just some stuff to meditate on. Just to maybe think about some things maybe you never really considered before, never really thought about, or never emphasized. Isaiah chapter 24, verse 21. And it shall come to pass in that day, tribulation, that the Lord shall punish the host of the high ones that are on high, comma, and the kings of the earth upon the earth. So these hosts, these high ones that are the host on high, are not kings of the earth, because they're given in contrast. You have the host of the high ones that are on high. They'd be out in the second heaven, in what you call space. And the kings upon the earth. This is towards the end of the tribulation, or at the second advent. And the Lord goes out of his way to mention that he's going to punish this group that are connected with being out in space. These wicked rulers, the host of the high ones. So it's like the Antichrist has some connection there. When you consider also that men are fascinated, impressed, and obsessed with really smart scientists, aren't they? They always have been. Really smart scientists. Oh man, that wows them. They'll give them a pass that they won't give other people. And they're fascinated, impressed, and obsessed with not only smart scientists, but with space. Constantly with space. The fact that there's really nothing out there right now is of no consequence. They're obsessed with space nonetheless. They think if we get out there, we'll accomplish something. We won't, but they think that's the case. Oh, if we can just get out into space. And they're also very fascinated, impressed, and obsessed with new technology. If you have a man who can come along and he proves that he's a very smart scientist, very smart physicist. He's got these connections with space, like Elon Musk, and he's able to create new technology, like Elon Musk, or Steve Jobs. These other, Edison, Tesla. I mean, Einstein is still an icon, is he not? I mean, who is this guy? Why is it that the world would still be fascinated with Einstein? This guy that died a long time ago. Well, he was this very smart scientist, very smart physicist. So he's this icon that people just can't get out of their minds. The same with Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla and Edison, and now Elon Musk. Really smart scientists building new technology, making advancements in space rockets. I mean, Elon Musk really did it, didn't he? I mean, he sent up this rocket that could go up, and then it could, instead of being disposable, it comes back down and rights itself and lands on the platform. I mean, this guy has got some inspiration from somewhere, if you know what I mean. And he's preparing for a trip to put men on Mars. Nobody else has seriously talked about that. If NASA talked about it, it was kind of in jest. I mean, they can't even get back to the moon. But Elon Musk is seriously planning for it. Elon is not the Antichrist, I can guarantee you that. But he is definitely a type. He's a type of the man who is about to rise to power over the world. The Lord will give you these types, either in history or in your day and age, and he'll show you. Look at what this man is like. Look at what he's associated with. Look at what he does. Look how he thinks, that kind of thing. And that will give you some clues as to what's coming up ahead. Now, Satan is never discount Satan. Never underestimate him. Satan is very smart, and he knows what impresses mankind. There's no doubt about that. Never make the mistake of thinking he doesn't. So no doubt when he arrives on the scene as the Antichrist, he will be a sort of Elon Musk, Einstein, Nikola Tesla, all wrapped into one, only 10 times smarter, and having some connection to spacecraft. It's inevitable. I mean, that is really what wows men. That is really what gets their attention. Genesis chapter 10, verse 8. Genesis chapter 10. This genealogy, this Gentile genealogy. Let's see. Genesis 10, verse 8. And Cush begat Nimrod. Good old Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. Now, Nimrod, who is he? He's the second type of Antichrist who shows up. So this is significant. If we're going to look at the things that we're looking at and try and speculate in the way that, at least I'm speculating, Nimrod is the second type of Antichrist who shows up in the Bible, Cain being the first one. So it's pretty important to look at him. He's the 13th from Adam. He's from Ham. He's let's see here. He's his name means rebellion. Hello. He's from the cursed seed. The word for leopard, that spotted leopard, in Hebrew is Nimr, Nimur, Nimrod, leopard, or rebel, or panther. His name also means spotted, like that spot that will show up with the mark of the beast in the tribulation. He is represented by the constellation Orion, the hunter. Let's see. I guess that's all I'll give on those particular notes I had written down. But look at Genesis 10, verses 9 and 10. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord, kind of like the lion. Satan goes about as a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. He's a hunter. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter, before the Lord. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh, in the land of, ding, 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 Shinar. Shinar. Now, what shows up in Shinar in his land there? Well, you go to the next chapter, Genesis 11, and let's look at verses 1 through 4. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. Now, we do have that today. In a sense, we have English. And I'm not going to go into a big, long thing on English, but you should know that English is universal. And you can pretty much go to, well, at least any civilized city in the world, and they'll probably have some people speaking English there, or English will be the second language. And nowadays, if you're on, you go on the web and you look up these live cams from, the Philippines or these other third world nations, Japan, for not the world, but Japan, any place. You look at the signs, you look at the grocery stores and the advertisements and all of that, and you'll see English all over the place. And then they might, they'll have Japanese there or Filipino dialect or whatever the thing is, but you'll see English all over the place. And they were of one speech, one language. Verse 2, and it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar. Here we go. And they dwelt there. And they said one to another, go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. Okay, so this is an advancement in science going on. And this is Nimrod's place. And science is taking an advancement here. And notice where this science is going to go and what it's for. Go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime they had for mortar. And they said, go to, let us, united, like United States, United Nations, united we stand, divided we fall. Let's get together with the space program and go up to, the space station together. Go to, let us build us. So here we go. Building. They're into craft here. They're going to craft something. Build us a city and a tower. A tower. Again, you got kind of like a horn there, don't you? You got kind of like a rocket. This tower. Kind of the same shape in a way. Whose top may reach unto heaven. Now, isn't that what they're doing now? That we may get back to the moon. That we may reach Mars, that we may reach here or there, or, someday maybe reach the first star and all this sort of thing. Whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered upon the face of the whole earth. So their goal was to get up to the second heaven. Their goal was to get up to space. That's what all that was about. That's what their advancement in science was about. That's what their craft was about. It's Tower of Babel. And Nimrod, the second type of Antichrist, builds a rocket. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant a horn. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant a tower to reach into space that drew all men to him. I believe that's what the Antichrist wanted to do. Gathered all that he is trying to think of the verse. His goal was to gather all men unto him, that they may worship him. And you recognize the verse, that he may be worshipped of all. And again, men are impressed with him, who can bring men up on high. If you can bring men up on high, men will be impressed with you if you can do that. Nimrod did that. Nimrod was a man who brought men up on high. So men were impressed with him. They exalted him. Who else? How about the Wright brothers? The Wright brothers. How is it that when I say the Wright brothers, you automatically know who I'm talking about? I mean, when did these guys die? They lived a short while. I mean, they lived back, what was that, the 1920s? I mean, they lived back when they made some stupid, rickety little, basically a glider with a motor on the back. But they're given credit as the first manned flight, inventing the airplane, that kind of thing. And they were able to get men up on high. So, to this very day, the Wright brothers are, people are highly impressed with them. They're men, their names are in lights because they got men up on high. Neil Armstrong? How many of you don't know the name Neil Armstrong? How many of you haven't heard the name repeated over and over and over again? Neil Armstrong, Neil Armstrong. He's considered a hero. He's considered this superhero who can do no wrong. Almost like a Superman with a cape on the back. The only thing is he's missing the cape. But people see him with the cape. Why is that? Because they say he went to the moon. First man to set foot on the moon. So he's a big hero with the world. And Elon Musk. Elon Musk, following in the same direction with the same goals in mind. His name is highly praised. Anything with Elon Musk, you put Elon Musk on a podcast, everyone wants to hear it. Some interview with Elon Musk or whatever, people want to watch it. They want to know, well, what did Elon Musk say? What did he say? See? The Antichrist is not dumb, because he'll be Satan manifest in the flesh, and he knows what impresses men. He knows what they're looking for. He knows what gets their attention. And especially if they also excel in science, like Elon Musk. Go to Daniel chapter 1. Men are fascinated with, he's a scientist. Well, I don't want to argue with the science. Oh, I know a really good preacher over here, man. He can preach up a storm, and there's 100 people got saved in the last couple months, and these were solid conversions, and they just look at you like a calf looking at a new gate. They're like, what? Yeah, so what? But you tell them, oh, there's a scientist. Ooh, you can hear a pin drop all of a sudden. Why? Daniel chapter 1, verse 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem and besieged it. Okay, Gentiles coming in. The heathen, as it were. We'll just call them the heathen. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar to the house of his God. And he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. And the king spake to Ashpenaz, the master of the eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel, and of the king's seed, and of the princes. Now here's what's impresses this heathen. Verse 4, children in whom was no blemish, but well favored, there's Hollywood, and skillful in all wisdom. Okay, there's that wisdom. There's that big head. There's that Einstein, all right, the Tesla. And cunning in knowledge, Einstein, Tesla, Hawking's. And understanding, here's the word, science. Understanding science. That'll do it. If you can prove that you have a really good understanding in science and you're highly knowledgeable and you got a high IQ, boy, they just can't argue with you. They'll just say, well, he may have these bad things about him, and he may have these shortnesses in his personality, but you know what? Look at how smart he is. Look how talented he is. And after all, he's also good looking. And such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace. Impressive. And whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. So that is what impressed the heathen. Daniel chapter 5, just a few pages over. Daniel chapter 5. And let's look at verse 9. Then was King Belshazzar greatly troubled, and his countenance was changed in him, and his lords were astonied. Now this is a beyond astonished. Your King James says astonied. Why is that word there? That's like a stone. You're not just astonished. Don't correct your King James Bible and say, well, that word means astonished. No. King James has it right. You're like a stone. You're just like a frozen stone. You're astonied. That's real scared. Verse 10. Now the queen, by reason of the words of the king and his lords, came into the banquet house, and the queen spake and said, O king, live forever. Let not thy thoughts trouble thee, nor let thy countenance be changed. There is a man in thy kingdom in whom is the spirit of the holy gods. That's what they'll think of the Antichrist. Now, of course, we're talking about Daniel here, and he's not a type of Antichrist. But look at what's going on here. Look how it will apply, and what the heathen highly observe. In whom is the spirit of the holy gods, and in the days of thy father light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods, was found in him. That's what men are looking for right now. Whom the king Nebuchadnezzar, thy father, the king, I say, thy father made master of the magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, and soothsayers. Verse 12. For as much as an excellent spirit, impressive. He's impressive. When you see him on video or whatever, he appears to have an excellent spirit. and knowledge. See that knowledge there? And understanding, interpreting of dreams. That's beyond just regular everyday knowledge. That's a supernatural knowledge. Reading minds, that sort of thing. Interpreting of dreams and showing of hard sentences and dissolving doubts. Now I got to push stop and start recording again, or I'm never going to upload this. Okay, it started recording again. Now notice that. Understanding, interpreting of dreams, and showing of hard sentences and dissolving of doubts were found in the same Daniel. Okay? See that showing of hard sentences? Now we're in Daniel here, so just turn over a few pages. Showing of hard sentences. Go over to Daniel 8:23. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to full, it's tribulation, a king of fierce countenance, Antichrist, and understanding dark sentences. See that connection there? Now, the hard sentences aren't exactly dark sentences, but you do see the connection. And understanding dark sentences shall stand up. Hard sentences of a dark context. Would you not agree? He's understanding hard sentences, this Antichrist, that are of a dark nature. They're of a dark context. They're dark sentences. Now, it's been interpreted forever that this just means satanic subjects, and no doubt that's part of the context, that's part of the subject, is something that's satanic in nature. After all, we're talking about the Antichrist and his witchcrafts. So, yeah. But is there more to it? Is there more to these dark sentences that men are impressed that he understands? These are sentences. This is stuff that's written down. This is stuff that can be written down. Maybe it's a formula. They're dark sentences, but he figures it out. He understands it. No doubt dark in the satanic sense, but another sense in a reference to science, like we just read about in Daniel here. Kind of like the elusive subject, if you've had just an armchair fascination with science and physics, like I just happen to have. I don't know a lot about it, but I study enough of it because I want to know what's going on, and I want to know how big of a liar science is. And when they're talking about dark matter and the God particle and all these sort of things, I look it up to see, well, what do they think they know? And I study it to see what do they say about it, and what does the Bible say about it, and then I get the true story. I get light on it that they don't get. So what is it, if you're really into looking into science and physics, what's the big deal? What's the big subject that they all been looking into? You know, that big Hadron Collider. There might actually be a couple of those. Miles of scientific instrument underground. It takes on, I don't know how many million joules of electricity or whatever to run it. And they're all running around in their lab coats, trying to be impressive. We're talking about dark matter here, aren't we? Dark matter? You ever heard about dark matter? Or dark energy? Dark matter and dark energy. Those are the babies. Those are the ones that science wants to get a hold of. They want to understand. And of course they won't understand them. I forget what the upload is, but if you look through my blue collar studies, I did a study on the Hadron Collider and the God particle and all that sort of thing. And I explained how science will never find what dark matter is. They'll never find out what dark energy is. They'll never find out what the God particle is. The so-called Higgs boson and it's not a Higgs because Higgs didn't discover it, and it's not a boson because it's not a physical object. They don't know this because the answers are found within the Bible. They're found within the Bible. You're not going to find them in a Hadron Collider. But that's the big thing. If they can find the answer to dark matter and dark energy, wow, what can they do? And perhaps the Antichrist will explain it in a spiritual fashion and reveal that to them. Forbes magazine, quote, "How mastering dark matter could take us to the stars." You see that? You see that connection? How dark matter, dark energy is connected to space. It's connected to spacecraft. It's connected to science. It's connected to getting us up on high. It's the cog in the engineering that we need in order to get a spaceship out to space to go wherever we want, to do whatever it is that we imagine in our wicked hearts. In interesting engineering, quote, "Interstellar spaceships might need to prepare for dark matter." So they need an understanding of dark matter if they're going to do that. Futurism, quote, "Scientists say dark matter could likely be incredible fuel for spacecraft." And that's always been a big issue. Well, you want to get to Mars, how are you going to fuel that thing? You got to take off, first of all, and then you got to go that long distance, and then you got to land. And then if you want to get back alive, you kind of got to take off again and come back and then land. I mean, there's a lot of, the fuel is a big deal. Fuel has always been a big deal for, spacecraft. And they're saying that dark matter could be the key. In the Daily Star, quote, "Interstellar space travel edges closer as scientists nearing dark matter discovery." Now, of course, scientists are no closer to dark matter discovery than they were 50 years ago, but they keep hoping. They think positive. They're positive thinkers, just like the devil. Hollywood, also called Hollywood, will often reveal the heart behind her scripts. Now, I don't know who I'm talking to right now and how much experience you've had with movies. I'm 55 years of age, so I went right through the big movie. I saw all the space stuff from the 50s and the 60s and the stuff in the 70s with Close Encounters of the Third Kind and Star Wars and Alien and all that sort of stuff, and it just kept going and going and going. And obviously, I saw the stuff, up through the 80s and the 90s. If you watch enough of that, if you have enough experience watching that stuff, you'll see stuff in those scripts that you can't explain it. There's no way just some heathen writer who was very entertaining was able to just write some of that stuff. You'll see stuff that unless you have not only a knowledge of the Bible, but unless you have a deep knowledge of the Bible and understanding deep doctrine, a lot of that stuff you're like, wait a minute, look at that there. There's no way some heathen would know about this. I don't even think the average Christian doesn't even know some of this stuff. But somebody up there in that second heaven who knows about all that stuff, he's inspiring these individuals to write these movies. And people wonder, well, why are they so fast? Why are these movies so entertaining? And why are they so brilliant? Because there's a brilliant mind behind them. For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. And there's a heart and a mind, a very intelligent mind behind the mouth of these movie writers that are giving you these movies. I don't know if you've ever seen 2001 Space Odyssey, a film released way back in 1968, folks. That was a year after I was born. 1968, and that thing was impressive for its day. In fact, to this day, you could still put it in the theater and get an audience. But it's essentially, the movie is where NASA sends a spaceship towards, of all places, Jupiter. How about that? Oh, that's just a coincidence, Don. That's just a coincidence. Okay. NASA sends a spaceship. The emphasis is on space. It's on a spaceship, and they're going towards Jupiter to investigate an alien monolith. Now, I'm sure this is just art. It's just pure art. There's nothing to it. It's not a type of anything. Yeah. You get to my age or around my age, you start to realize there ain't no coincidences. There's no such thing as coincidences. You just have to find the connections. It's not a coincidence, it's a connection. You just got to find the connection. So you have this large black object called a monolith with a shape or form that's kind of like Noah's Ark, in a way, which also, by the way, ascended above the earth. Or like a casket, I suppose. You ever see 2001 Space Odyssey or 2010 Space Odyssey? I'm sure there's nothing to it. Modern similar forms are your smartphone. Notice how many black smartphones there are out there. They got you can turn it on its side. I mean, it kind of looks like that monolith in 2001, 2010 Space Odyssey. Every man's got to have one. That's where all their knowledge is coming from. You ever look at a stereo or stereo components? That musical instrument? I wonder who was connected with music originally. You ever look at the stereo speakers? They're almost always in the same form. How about a TV for the most part? Probably nothing to it. This black monolith. Maybe the form is not like any of that at all. Maybe it's just a counterfeit of, get it, a black Bible? A black King James Bible? Men need that monolith. The monolith is what's going to save us. That's got the answers. Don't go to the black book that's right in your own home or at a nearby maybe hotel or dime store or library or bookstore. Don't go to the black book to learn what man needs to know how to get into space and to live forever. Doesn't the black book, doesn't the King James Bible tell you how we're eventually going to get into space? Yes, it does. It tells us how eventually mankind will populate the universe. And it tells you how we're going to live forever. It tells you about everything science is trying to discover right now. It's all in the King James Bible. But man in his imagination, inspired by guess who, has to go flying off in a spaceship, in a spacecraft towards Jupiter to rendezvous with this monolith, kind of looks like a King James Bible, in order to get all that taken care of. Fly a spacecraft to Jupiter of all places. To make contact with an alien monolith. Will we ever make contact with aliens? Well, if we do, men will all think that there's some kind of alien, or they're the ones who gave us life originally and helped us to make that evolutionary gap. And they're our fathers. And it's through their seed, not Christ's seed, it's through their seed that we have, see? But they'll just see them as these alien leaders. We'll see them as the devils that they are, fallen angels. Now in 2010 Space Odyssey, the Space Odyssey Part 2, what they say, if you look at the poster of 2010 Space Odyssey, it says, quote, "The year we make contact." The year we make contact. Wonder what year that will be. I wonder if that'll be the year after the rapture. Or the year right around the rapture. The year of the rapture. Who knows? God knows. But that will be one day on this earth, I imagine, with the Antichrist, This is the year we made contact. And this great, intelligent being came down, and he's showing us all the secrets to dark matter and dark energy and spacecraft, and he's actually showing us how, like Elon Musk, showing us how we ourselves can create spacecraft. Forget about flying saucers. We'll be making our own flying saucers thanks to this genius. We'll be able to get up on high, just like in the Tower of Babel, just like in the airplane, just like with the space rockets to the moon. They go back to Jupiter, don't they, in the 2010 Space Odyssey. They go back to Jupiter in the monolith. Why Jupiter? Well, again, I don't want to go over all the information again, but if you go to my blue collar studies, I have a whole big thing on Jupiter. I have a whole study on Jupiter, and you'll find out. And there's tons of details on Jupiter that you should know as a Bible believer. But Jupiter is a type of Antichrist. Jupiter is a great type of Antichrist. Jupiter is a giant with one eye, called a king. Jupiter is the king of planets, and it has white spots all over it, and a big red eye. Oh, there's lots to it. And that's a type of Antichrist. So, of course, the world is going to have to do what? Go to Antichrist. They're going to have to go to the Antichrist in type for all these answers. Let's go to Acts 19:19. Acts 19:19. Many of them also which used curious arts brought their books together. This is something written. These are dark sentences. I often wondered what were in some of these books. What was, lost in these books that they used to know about, that they practiced in Egypt and different places, that maybe the Antichrist will bring back. Many of them also which used curious arts brought their books together, something written, and burned them before all men, and they counted the price of them and found it 50,000 pieces of silver. These dark sentences that were in these books found in Acts 19. Well, while we're in Acts 19, let's go ahead a few verses down. And let's look at verse 23 while we're here. And the same time there arose no small stir about that way, for a certain man named Demetrius, a silversmith. So he's a craftsman. He's a scientist in a way. He's causing craft to prosper. A silversmith which made silver shrines, idolatry, for Diana, brought no small gain unto the, watch the word, craftsmen. Craftsmen. Kind of like men building crafts. Building a craft might go up into the second heaven. Verse 25, whom he called together with the workmen of like occupation, and said, Sirs, you know that by this craft we have our wealth. Moreover, ye see and hear that not alone at Ephesus, but almost throughout all Asia, this Paul hath persuaded and turned away much people, saying that they be no gods which are made with hands. Verse 27, so that not only this our craft is in danger to be set at naught, but also that the temple of the great goddess Diana, now we're talking about gods and goddesses, should be despised. I wonder who's in that second heaven, those principalities and powers. Aren't they gods? Yeah, they are. Sometimes parading around as a goddess. And her magnificence should be destroyed, whom all Asia and the world worshipeth. All the world is going to worship that Antichrist. Let's look at verse, we're right here, Acts 19. Let's just look at verse 31 while we're here. Let's look at our context some more. You see that theater there? See that movie theater? And certain of the chief of Asia, which were his friends, sent unto him, desiring him that he would not adventure himself into the Netflix. Into the cable TV. Into the theater. The theater. See all these types? See all these things that are going to come back around? Look at verse 35. And when the town clerk had appeased the people, he said, Ye men of Ephesus, what man is there that knoweth not how that the city of the Ephesians is a worshiper of the great goddess Diana, and of the image which fell down from where? Jupiter. Jupiter. Your King James Bible mentions Jupiter. That's important. It's important. Evidently, men believed in Paul's day that men would show up on earth who were gods, and that they were associated with Jupiter. Let's look back a few pages. Let's just look back a few pages to Acts 14. Acts chapter 14. Look at 11 through 13. And when the people saw what Paul had done, they lifted up their voices, saying in the speech of Lycaonia, the gods, watch this, the gods are come down unto us. Huh. Do you ever stop and just contemplate that? I mean, when you're reading through your Bible, do you ever just think about these things? What is this a type of? What is this? Why is this important? Is this going to be something that's going to take place in the future? The gods are come down. They're come down. From where? To us in the likeness of men. In the likeness of men. Not like ghouls, not like monsters, like men. And they called Barnabas Jupiter. How about that? And Paul Mercurius, because he was the chief speaker. Then the priest of Jupiter, which was before their city, brought oxen. What's oxen connected with? Thou art cursed above all cattle. That ox, that fifth cherub, Satan. They brought oxen and garlands unto the gates, and would have done sacrifice with the people. That's what the Antichrist is going to want. He's going to want worship. So, in Paul's day, and maybe in the future, as things are going, as things are heading, who knows what little message we might get on one of our, all these things that are listening into outer space, trying to listen for patterns and listen for, hello messages from aliens. Who knows what they might get around Jupiter? Maybe one of the moons of Jupiter. So back in Acts 19, where we were, in verse 25 and 27, craft is associated with what's going on. Interesting. Revelation chapter 18, craft. Well, they're just making idols. Maybe not. Maybe it's a little more involved than that. Revelation 18, which happens to be 6 plus 6 plus 6. Revelation 18 and verses 21 and 22. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. And the voice of harpers and musicians and of pipers and trumpeters shall be heard no more at all in thee. This is towards the end of the tribulation. And no craftsman of whatsoever craft he be. Whatsoever craft. Not just idolatry. Maybe making some kind of craft. Spacecraft. Of whatsoever craft he be, shall be found any more in thee. And the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee. The craft and craftsmen are emphasized. Curious how Babylon is said in 18:2. If you look at 18:2, it says that she's fallen. 18:2, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, is fallen. Fallen from where? Did she actually get up? Did she actually achieve something? Did she get up where she wasn't supposed to be through craft? Through spacecraft, maybe? Who else is connected with getting up high where they're not supposed to be, and they wind up fallen? Fallen. Pay attention to the words of your King James Bible. Isaiah 14, verse 12. How art thou fallen, 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 from heaven, heaven, space. O Lucifer, son of the morning, how art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend like a rocket ship. I will ascend into heaven. I'll go back to the moon. I'll go to Mars. I'll make it to the first star. I'll go here. I'll go there. And I will exalt my throne. That's what they want to do on earth here, above the stars of God. And I will sit upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds, NASA, with the help of the Antichrist. I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. That's what happens to that heathen as well. They're brought down to the sides of the pit. And notice also, back in Revelation 18, just paying attention to words and taking these words seriously. Well, what does the original Greek says, and who cares? Revelation 18:2. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon, here's our Babylon again, is the great is fallen from somewhere, and has become the habitation of devils. So devils are connected with it. They're inhabiting it. And the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. A hateful bird. That's something that flies high. It flies high and it's hateful. It's not right. Well, that's just an unclean spirit. Okay, maybe that's all it is. Maybe there's not a secondary application there. But in our good old movie 2010 Space Odyssey, the movie has a happy Hollywood ending, if you've seen it. When Jupiter, the type of Antichrist, becomes a second sun, Malachi 4. Malachi 4, where the S-U-N of righteousness rises with healing in his wings. Jesus Christ is called the S-U-N. In the book of James, again, that S-U-N, that sun coming up is a type of Jesus Christ, the second advent. But in 2010 Space Odyssey, they go to Jupiter, type of Antichrist. They got to go to the Antichrist, where a second sun is created from Jupiter, imitating Jesus Christ, as the Antichrist will do, thus saving the world and giving it life as a counterfeit of Jesus Christ, the S-U-N of righteousness. The Antichrist will counterfeit Jesus Christ. He will have an association with Jupiter, no doubt, and no doubt be a great scientist as well as other things, and a great craftsman with a connection to spacecraft somehow, and possibly an association with a large black obelisk. Amen? Amen.